Gangjo was surprised and asked him whether he was serious or just joking because of how excited he looked. Jang replied that he was serious, but he had to leave now because he was busy. In reality, he just wanted to get away before Shu came out and forcefully devoured Jangjo. Before leaving, he gestured to Jangjo and told him that he would report back to officially join the Night Guard in 3 days. After that, Jangjo started thinking to himself that he had forgotten something extremely important. He never asked our protagonist about his exact class. At that moment, his thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of 2 elders. Gangjo greeted one of them, addressing him as the 8th elder of the military court, and told him that he was late because he had already recruited the royal rank ability user. The old man was surprised and said that the owner of that ability belonged to the normal class, and that if he joined the Night Guard, it would be the same as sending him to his death. Meanwhile, our protagonist had gone to meet a group of his neighbors and friends who were shocked when they found out that Jang was the royal rank user everyone was talking about. Even though Jang tried to tell them that his ability was from the normal class and that the situation was a bit unfortunate, Uncle Wang told him not to be upset because big companies would definitely need him and would pay him a lot of money. Jang thanked him for his kind words and said that he would repay the good treatment he and the rest of the neighbors had shown him. Wang told him not to worry about such small matters and invited him to join them in entering a beginner-level gate so they could help him raise his level. Jang agreed immediately, and they headed there without wasting any time. Our protagonist was amazed by the appearance of the secret dimension inside the gate, and then the gate's data appeared before them. The system explained that it was C rank and called the Royal Zombie Palace. Uncle Wing was shocked by this because they were supposed to be beginners. Since their levels were low, the gate's difficulty wasn't supposed to increase so suddenly. Ji then said that she felt the difficulty had risen because Jang was royal rank, but Wing replied that he wasn't convinced, since Jang was still from the normal class. At that point, the other girl tried to intervene and suggested that they withdraw from the gate, but Wing refused and explained that this was the opportunity of a lifetime for them, because their levels were low and they were only allowed to enter beginner gates. Since the higher the gate's difficulty, the greater the rewards and treasures, Yan believed they had to clear this gate if they wanted to become rich. As he finished speaking, we saw him deliver a powerful strike to one of the armored zombies while telling Jenny to be careful and stay by his side. He then looked at her and asked her to support him with her ability enhancement buff, but before he could even finish his sentence, Jenny had already begun casting it and carrying out his command. That boost gave him more than enough power to cut straight through the armored zombies with his sword and wipe them all out in the blink of an eye. As for Hyun, he stood beside him, saying that only now did he understand why this team used to return every time covered in injuries. He had even heard that Yama never wanted to become a hunter in the first place, but had been forced to do so in order to treat her brother's eye. Since all of these people had always treated Jin well and helped him throughout his life, he had made a promise to himself that he would repay them one day, no matter how long it took. But our protagonist's thoughts were suddenly cut off by Xiao's voice saying that she could smell food and was starving. At that moment, he allowed her to act. She began to use the poisonous mist through his hand, and we realized that she was spreading it over the corpses of the dead monsters so she could devour them after the bodies were dissolved by the mist. The problem was that Xiao's satiety level was increasing very slowly because of the low level of those monsters. That was why Yan believed they needed to enter higher level gates as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Yan couldn't help his team with the poisonous mist because he wasn't fully confident he could control it, and he might end up hurting them by accident. His thoughts were interrupted again when he noticed a zombie that looked different from the rest of the armored ones. Xiao became excited and told him that this creature would taste incredibly good. That creature was called a level 10 Dark Knight, and the higher the monster's level, the better it tasted for Xiao. From the information our protagonist had, we learned that this knight was known for hiding in the shadows and appearing behind the team to attack the weakest members, people like our protagonist. But the Dark Knights didn't know that our protagonist had actually been waiting for this exact moment to test his new abilities. He told Xiao to keep the poisonous marks active continuously, and she immediately did. Taking advantage of that, he dashed toward the monsters with incredible speed and greater power, marking each one of them with poison without attacking at all. It was clear that the Shadow Knights couldn't understand what he was trying to do, but soon it became obvious. His plan was to eliminate all of them with the least possible effort. He activated Poison Explosion, detonating all the marks he had placed on their shoulders as he passed by them, wiping them out in a single move. As the Shadow Knights collapsed, Xiao's satiety value began to rise dramatically, so much that she said she was just a little more away from reaching her next evolution. Meanwhile, our protagonist realized that he had become far stronger than he had expected, but his thoughts were cut short when another large wave of food rushed toward him at high speed. Xiao told him to focus on the food because she was still hungry. However, he was worried about the rest of his teammates and didn't want them to get hurt, so he orders Xiao to deal with those monsters herself and then come back to him after she finished. At that same time, in another area not too far away, we see Wong's team surrounded by monsters from every direction. Uncle Wong was injured, yet he reassured his followers that he was still fine. Even though he told them from the outside that it was just a minor wound for someone of a combat class, deep inside he had no idea how to get out of this situation, so he came up with a plan. He would sacrifice himself and send the two girls to regroup with Jan while he handled everything here alone. But before he could even finish speaking, he heard the sound of a monster approaching. He realized that one of the armored undead was trying to catch him off guard with a powerful attack. Wong had been distracted, and he knew he wouldn't be able to dodge in time. But fortunately, Jan arrived at that exact moment. He used a poisonous mist on the undead and eliminated it within seconds. They were all shocked by what had just happened and asked our protagonist how he managed to do that when his ability was supposed to be non-combat. Jin replied that he possessed a hidden skill, trying to explain that it was called Poisonous Mist, and then asked Wang, Jenny, and the girl to leave because he would finish off the remaining monsters by himself. They were all surprised and tried to convince him to let them stay so he wouldn't be in danger, but he reassured them and promised he would be fine. As he approached the monsters, the system suddenly announced that the four of them had reached the final point and that the dungeon boss would appear immediately. At that moment, Wang said it was better for them to listen to Jin. He wasn't someone who lied, and they had to trust him. In the end, Wang agreed to leave, especially since he was injured and would only slow him down if he stayed inside the dungeon. But before going, he threw his sword to Jin and told him to return it once he made it out safely. The sword increased his speed by 25 points, his strength by 30, and an additional 20% bonus thanks to Xiao's evolution and their connection skill. At that moment, Jin came up with a brilliant idea. He coated the sword with poisonous mist and began cutting through the monsters in the blink of an eye, because the mist had an acidic effect that split them clean in half. And of course, controlling the sword was incredibly easy for him, because he had been the top practitioner in his entire academy. But everything changed when the dungeon boss launched an attack. Jin was forced into a defensive stance. He dodged the first strike and even leaped into the air, but the boss had no intention of stopping and followed up with a powerful horizontal slash. At that moment, Jin managed to block the attack with his sword, even though it was extremely difficult. Unfortunately, due to the sheer power of the boss's blow, his sword shattered. He was thrown backward with tremendous force, almost crashing into the wall. It seemed that the unfortunate Uncle Wang wouldn't be able to hunt again for quite some time. Jin regained his balance using his agility, but when he noticed the broken blade, he realized that the boss's strength was far greater than he had imagined. Night Guard. If you've made it to the end of the video, you're officially one of the legends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button because that's the only way you'll help me continue the rest of this story. Trust me, what's coming next is on a whole different level. So subscribe, like the video, and get ready for the next part.